Welcome to Party-Street. Today we are going to discuss about Samudragupta. Samudragupta was definitely the most outstanding political figure of his family. His stupendous efforts to raise the Guptas as the supreme political power are presented in Allahabad prasasti, which was composed by his court poet Harishena. Also, the Eran stone inscription is important, along with his coins and 2 copper plates said to have been issued by him. A great conqueror, Samudragupta uprooted or unmulya no less than 10 kings of Aryavarta or North India according to the Allahabad prasasti. They are Rudradev, Motil, Nagadatta, Ganapati Naga, Nagasena, Chandravarman, Achyuta, Nandi, Balavarman, and Kotakuluraj, or a petty king of the Kota family. It is also said that Paricharaki Krita Sarvatavika Rajasya. His South Indian campaign was no less spectacular. He claims victorious over Sarvadakshinapatharaj, or all South Indian kings. 12 such kings in peninsular India are explicitly stated along with their respective territories in the Allahabad prasasti. Harishena appears to have enlisted them in a definite geographical order, which helps us judge the extent of the South Indian campaign. But more important is the mention of the territories of vanquished enemies in the south, a pattern of narration distinctly different from the account of his North Indian military and political exploits. This was deliberately done as Samudragupta followed a different policy in Trans-Vindhyan territories, Grohana-Mokshanugraha policy, that is, capturing the defeated enemy, then favoring by releasing the captive, as the victor was sure of his suzerainty. In other words, the territories of the defeated kings were not annexed to the Gupta Empire, and therefore the kingdoms of these rulers continued to exist. Samudragupta then must have followed a policy in Dakshinapatha different from that in Aryavarta. The list of the defeated kings is as follows: Mahendra of Koshala, Bagraraj of Mahakantara, Mantaraj of Kaurala, Mahendragiri of Pishtapura, Swamidatta of Kottura, Damana of Erandapalla, Vishnugop of Kanchi, Nilaraj of Avamukta, Hastivarman of Vengi, Ugrasena of Palakka, Kubera of Devarastra, and Dhananjaya of Kusthalapura. Despite many debates among historians about the identifications of the rulers and their respective territories, it is more or less certain that Samudragupta penetrated the Deccan through central India and the forest tract of western Orissa and Chhattisgarh to reach the coastal areas of Kalinga. From here, he followed the eastern seaboard southwards right up to Kanchi in what was later called Tandai Mandalam. The campaign eloquently speaks of the striking power of the Gupta army and the great military generalship of Samudragupta. It is indeed a rare military feat for a ruler with his power base in North India to plan and so successfully execute such a long-distance campaign in Trans-Vindhyan regions. Equally exceptional is the Grohana-Mokshanugraha policy. Various explanations have been offered towards understanding the motives of this campaign. In the Allahabad prasasti, there are names of 3 North Indian rulers uprooted by Samudragupta, followed by the account of the defeat of 12 South Indian kings, and then once again the full list of 10 North Indian kings defeated by Samudragupta. If this is interpreted as a strict sequence of events, Samudragupta then first defeated only 3 North Indian kings, after which he proceeded to South India and finally returned again to the north to exterminate 10 North Indian rivals. But it is a debatable issue. This led a number of scholars to infer that while Samudragupta was away in south, his North Indian rivals challenged his supremacy, taking advantage to his absence. Samudragupta therefore had to rush to North India to defeat them, but left his southern campaign unfinished. Thus, the Grahan-Mokshanugraha policy is seen as a softer one which was required by the contingent situation in North India. The Allahabad prasasti, however, has no corroborate evidence of any political challenge from his contemporary North Indian powers. The other alternative explanation was that Samudragupta could have been actually defeated by a confederacy of South Indian rulers under the leadership of Vishnugova. That is why the Gupta king had to take recourse to a policy of freeing the captured kings. Once again, there is no supporting information from the Allahabad prasasti. It has also been argued that Samudragupta realized the practical difficulties integrating such a vast territory from his North Indian base, or more precisely the Magadhan core region, and wisely allowed the defeated rulers of the Deccan and South India independent political existence. But it will be extremely unlikely to imagine an austere military and political leader like Samudragupta to have launched such a distant campaign without prior calculations of the political advantages realizable from a possible victory. What is more or less clear is that Samudragupta definitely directed his attention to the eastern seaboard adjoining present Orissa, Andhra Pradesh and northern Tamil Nadu. Significantly enough, his littoral was dotted with a number of flourishing ports. On the basis of early classical texts, Tamil Sangam texts and archaeological materials, these ports appear to have participated in maritime commerce along the eastern coast and also with Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. Moreover, Vengi was a prosperous agricultural region. Harishena claims that Samudragupta was in touch with Sarvadvipa Vashivi, that is, Sri Lanka and the island of Southeast Asia. For a North Indian ruler over a landlocked territory, political control over the eastern coast may have provided a much needed outlet for reaching Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. Such a political control could be secured by stamping upon the defeated rulers of Eastern Deccan the superior military might of the Gupta monarch without necessarily having to annex them. Seen from this angle, Samudragupta might have been prompted to launch his Dakshinapatha campaign more for strategic and economic advantages rather than territorial annexation. Some scholars argued that Raghu's conquest in Kalidasa's Raghuvansham echoes the Deccan campaign of Samudragupta. The same has also been explained as an application of the Kautilian model of the Dharma Vijaya, different from annexation of territories or Digvijaya. Even if it amounts the Dharma Vijaya, it is definitely not similar to Ashoka's conquest by Dhamma or Dhamma Vijaya. Attention now may be turned to another category of the then powers to satisfied Prachanda Shasana Samudragupta by Sarvakaradana Agnakarana Pranamagavana Puritoshita Prachanda Shasana, or paying him all tributes, obeying orders, attending the court and paying him obeisance. These include the Pratyantanripati, or 5 frontier chiefs, and 9 non-monarchical groups. The 5 frontier areas were Samatata, Davaka, Nepal, Kamarupa and Kotripura. The non-monarchical groups are clubbed together by Harishena. They are Malavas, Arjunayanas, Yodhayas, Madrakas, Aviras, Praviras, Kakapuras, Shanakanikas and Karparikas. That many of these were non-monarchical polities is clearly indicated by the legends of their coins and seals. This is a political relation clearly different from that between the Gupta Emperor and the Arjavarta Rajas and Dakshinapatha Rajas, respectively. The frontier chiefs and the non-monarchical groups stood as tributary powers to Samudragupta, who spread his political superiority over an extensive outlying zone from southeastern Bangladesh to Rajasthan and from the Himalayan foothills to the western fringes of the Deccan. The Gupta power significantly penetrated into what is called the tribal belt of central India. The Gupta Empire was in intimate contacts with a number of independent powers outside and on the borderlands of the subcontinent. The Allahabad prasasti enlists Daivaputra Shahi Shahanushahi, that is a Kushana ruler to the west of the Indus and in the northwestern borderlands, Shaka Murunda, that is a Shaka king whose exact area of rule is not clear, and Singhalakadi Sarvadvipa Vashivi, that is all island dwellers including Sri Lanka. These powers maintained friendly relations with Samudragupta by Atmanivedana, or presenting themselves at the Gupta court, Kannapayana Dana, or offering him the gifts of maidens, and Garut Madanka Swabhukti Shasana Jachna, or by seeking the Gupta royal seal with Garur emblem as a guarantee for the rule over their own territories. These powers, though independent, appear to have been deeply impressed by the political supremacy of the Guptas. To what extent the Gupta emperor really exerted influence over these distant rulers, or whether Harishena composed a prophecy in conformity to the expected standard of a eulogy in favor of a political biography, is open to question. But it may at least be granted that Samudragupta, by his matchless military leadership and by maintaining different types of political and diplomatic relations with different types of contemporary powers, made the Guptas the most formidable power in the North India. There are some significances of the campaign led by the Gupta kings. Despite the long-drawn struggle between the Magadhan monarchy and the non-monarchical Licchavis leading to the defeat of the latter in the 5th century BCE, the Licchavis somehow managed to survive in the region around Vaishali. That is why they appeared prominently as a non-monarchical clan during the initial phase of the Gupta period. Marriage alliance between the Gupta and the Licchavis ultimately resulted in the incorporation of the Licchavi territory in North Bihar into the growing Gupta dominion. By the first quarter of the 5th century CE, any semblance of the non-monarchical polity in that area had vanished. The reference to 9 tribal groups in the Allahabad prophecy clearly indicated their presence in the greater portions of the tribal belt of central India. Though these were not directly conquered and incorporated into the Gupta realm by Samudragupta, they caused to figure as non-monarchical groups since the time of Chandragupta II. The Shanakanikas enlisted in the Allahabad pillar inscription no longer remained a Ganarajya or Ganashangha. Instead, a Shanakanika Maharaja figured as a vassal of Chandragupta II. The Shanakanikas must have transformed into a monarchical setup by the time of Chandragupta II had come to rule. Similarly, the Daspura area was marked by the presence of the non-monarchical Mallavas for long till the time of Samudragupta. Following the recognition of their tributary status during Samudragupta's time, this area saw the emergence of two branches of the Aulikara ruling house, one group acknowledging the Gupta suzerainty and the other remaining independent. The emergence of the Aulikara dynasty signals the end of protracted history of the non-monarchical Mallava Gana. In the passage of the transformation of non-monarchical clan into a monarchical polity, the rulers of the incipient states are often found to have assumed rather vague non-monarchical titles like Nripati or Narapati. Some cases in this point may be seen in the reference to the Pratyantanripatis in the Allahabad prasasti. Absence of the names of these tributaries in the frontier regions of the Gupta Empire strongly suggests that they had been more chieftains than full-fledged monarchs. Shamatata, Kamrupa, and the Atavikas are also examples of penetration of the monarchical state structure. If the formation of the monarchical state structure in areas previously marked by the prevalence of pre-state societies speaks of the advent of a more complex society, then two other points should also be considered. Military conquests by powerful kings were not the sole engine for the transformation of pre-state polities into state societies. The availability and mobilization of resources are also crucially important for the emergence and consolidation of the state society, which could be effectively achieved by the expansion of agriculture. The other type of integration involved in the passages from pre-state to state polity was the gradual incorporation of the autochthonous cults or religious symbols into Brahmanical belief system. So this is the end of our today's discussion. Subscribe our channel, like our videos and comment. Listen to our podcast episodes. Follow our official Facebook page, Twitter handle and Instagram. For any query, feel free to mail us. For details, see the description.